Hello, everyone. I'm back and like to talk some more about existence and God and reality and truth and let's change up this world and get down to some understanding and trying to use our brains for something that's good. And I wanted to focus on the very first prime cause, the cause of causes, Universal Father, what this book claims it, your answer book, has many names, and depending on where this great source and center, the center of all centers, the cause of all realities, this, depending on where you're at in creation, they have different names as far as their different understandings and different revelations, depending on where you're at in either perfected universe or in an evolutionary universe or in outer space yet to come, and the whole master universe. So you break it down into the universal father escaping absolute perfection of all absolutes in all the good ways, divine ways, uncomprehendable ways that we may never find out. God is God, and some of the mystery of God will probably remain a mystery for eternity. And just getting to share in this existence is the first aspect I think of unselfishness, that selflessness, that loving, and to the point where by His own free will, God broke away from absolute perfection to be able to share existence on the levels that we can, and eventually to the point where we can become immortal and eternalized with Him, through Him, and through His sons. But so Universal Father, many names, Father of Fathers, Father of Lights. I've written some down. I'll turn this around. I'll show you a little bit. Get some of this going about the actual source of existence and what I believe in. It's from a God of love and one true God, the only God, the living God, and to complement the living God and to understand you to me, have a living faith, and living faith is more than just belief in your mind. It's something that you act out with your daily living, and it's a moment by moment thing. And for 20 years, I could claim existing, or more than 20 years, 30 some years, I could claim that I believe in Jesus. 20 years for sure. I talked to other people about it, but I never really acted it so much to a level than I have this year, and being, I believe, reborn and having that superposition of realities that I can testify with the material body that can feel pain and feel and touch, and you can experience other physical aspects and different realities. And there's all kinds of talks and stuff you can talk about that, and idealism and all different isms or whatever out there. But keep it simple with the God knowing stuff that I know, and that second thing is your consciousness. To me, is a gift from God, and that one actually is a bestow of the conjoint actor, the third source and center, the third person of deity, the infinite spirit, have you. But Universal Father, though, to escape absolute perfection, broke away with His own free will, His own volition. Uh, Basically, the way, this is where you have a hard time understanding. It's the Trinity becomes involved in by escaping by personalization to the eternal Son, being perfect representation of God the Father through God the Son, and by those two co-created God the Spirit, the infinite Spirit, which they're all three spirit. The ultimate realities are all spirit. Those truths that you feel, and not, so much, you can write them down, and you might be able to actually transfer the feeling by someone reading something you've written down. And that's where, that it comes into play, where you can write truths down, but they still have to be interpreted and comprehended by another personality, another being. And they, if you don't understand the language that's written down in, it's just gibberish. So I mean, whatnot. But there's so much involved with God and existence, and trying to get some clarity and understanding, and breaking through those fogs of consciousness that, so caught up in some of the material world. And to the point, our leaders and our generations before us have focused on standardized education to material goals instead of more spiritual. And the material gain, we know, is something that isn't going to go with us, at least I believe. I mean, you have the ancient Egyptian pharaohs had their pyramid storehouse and whatnot, other tombs with all kinds of we don't have to argue about the tombs or being tombs. And I understand some pyramids aren't tombs and could be all kinds of talk there. It's all different channeling. But anyway, they even killed their wives and slaves, and chariots and horses or whatever. They took their whole, being with them into the afterlife, which we know maybe some of the spirits went, but all that food and stuff was still there in the tombs or whatever. And the gold, and they were looted, and someone else used that stuff. It didn't go with them. So to me, the material is something that stays in the material realm, and the spirits, basically go on, and it's not exactly how you think. To me, the spirit we have now that's superimposed over top of material and our top of our intelligence is another gift of God, the fragment of God, the pre-personal aspect of the universal Father fragmentizes his well of never-ending, his eternalized infinity, his essence that can fragmentize and doesn't lose any essence, never dries up. There's a continuing well that never gets depleted or anything, in my understanding. But he can send out these mystery monitors, these indwelling father fragments, to actually dwell in the minds of men and their hearts, and basically sojourn with them for their ascension into eternity or to paradise, and help guide them, and with their help and guidance, and we take the time to calm our minds and focus, and pray and meditate, and in tune, actually calm the minds down, calm them down, to try and get to that nothingness. And there's never any nothingness, there's always something. And to get to that something that is in there already, that dwelling us, that father fragment, he will speak up, he will start to commune, he will, in different subtle ways, or maybe to the point you might hear him clear as day. I don't know, I'm one person, there's other people out there that testify. But I know I feel him, I feel that presence, I feel different since this year, that rebirth, that born. I'm an infant, and growing, and trying to learn and spreading. But I've already felt that wanting to talk to my neighbors and build up the courage to do that. And there's some neighbors I've talked to, one in particular, but really that's the introvert in me, and the scary part of going and talking and making excuses not want to. But I'm gonna. That's what my next prime goal right now is, to go talk to my neighbors, and go see what kind of responses we get. And I'm sure I already have a good idea what some will be, but it's finding that approach, and that right talking, and maybe not have to bring up God at all. That's why I like to talk about existence, because existence to me is something people are more approachable at. And existence to me is also God. Everything that existed is God, and it gets hard to understand with evil and bad stuff. And when we talk about that breaking away from absolute perfection, to me, the time and space, the repercussion of that is Father's will, kind of breaking out of the central universe, which I skip ahead a lot, and I'm sorry, go back into, you got the divine universe, which is paradise and the Havana circuit, or central universe. So there's a little separation between the central and the paradise. Paradise is like an actual gigantic mass of like the perfected, impersonal pattern of God, and it is the source of the material gravity, physical gravity, as the other three paradise residents are the source of mind gravity and spirit gravity and personality gravity, which is a bestowal of the universal father, and only the universal father, which there's other personality bestowments from the infinite spirit with some of his offspring or her offspring. There's really no genders in the spirits, but there may be some more understanding of that. And I only understand so much, and imagine the universal father could also be said as the universal mother and universal daughter, but they use these aspects of gender. Might be a reason for that, but I've read in other places where they did talk about the universal mother and as a female, which to me it goes either way. It doesn't matter. God is God, and He fragmentizes the live in everyone, and you when you're afflicted, God is afflicted, and depending on how much and understand, some things may not seem so much accurate, but depending on the planetary experience of their evolutionary creatures, and you don't have to break it down as creation and evolution. There's an in between. There is a both, and if you can see that, witnessing in your own kids, they grow and they evolve into adults, or we hope they evolve into mature adults from little childish kids. When Jesus talks about being a child when it comes to the spiritual kingdom, he's meaning you child is in your full trust of your parents. When you know that you have full trust that your parents are going to do whatever, you don't even think about it because you have that full faith that your parents will take care of you when you're 2 or 3 or 4 or whatnot. And gets to be when you're a little older and you're in the wise mode where you start to understand that your parents don't have everything, where they understand everything or may not have it under control. And unfortunately, in this broken, brutal world, some people learn it really quick, and even when they're too young to be knowing what's going on, because their parents aren't able to take care of them, and they're not doing it because they're still too selfish of themselves. And that's the problem. We don't have enough God in us and enough Jesus going around and enough just love. God is love. God is personality. God is spirit. When you want people to understand, you want them to dig deep, you want them to, you say, get in the spirit, right? Say, get in the material gain, get in the spirit, dig deep, yeah, that's the spirit, say, that's the material gain, that's what we're doing, and we need to get away from that. We need to educate more wisdom, and we know these wisdoms, we see them played out, we can become a part of them. We don't need the material selfishness, and I've not been tempted with majority of power on this planet or greed, so I can't say when I've been tempted. And that's the thing about building characters. When you get put into situations or spots to where you're not sure how you're gonna act, we'll keep it as simple and easy, like playing basketball, and your team's down by 1 and there's 30 seconds left, and the ball went out on you, but the refs call it out on the other team. Would you speak up and say, hey, no, it's actually the other team's ball, it hit out on me, and try to win by playing good defense and getting the ball back next possession, or having a coach, take a timeout and telling you to foul him, let him go to the line, or whatever works out. But would you be honest in that situation? And because it's basketball, it doesn't really matter, the outcome if you win or lose. The other team wants to win, and they'd be pretty sore if they know it wasn't out on them, and the refs called it, and they're probably even arguing their case as while you're trying to make your mind up if you're going to be honest or not. That's a simple situation that probably won't occur for very many of us, but it has for some. And there's similar situations every day where you're going to be honest with yourself, because all the time, God knows. Nothing's hidden from God, and we're all going to have to reap what we sow, and maybe not. Maybe if there's forgiveness, and maybe if you can forgive other people their trespasses, God can forgive you. I'm not any judge, or I don't judge any universe. God's got it set up, and He's got the heavenly realms under control, and how it's supposed to work out. I don't know that, and that's the thing. We shouldn't be judging each other. We should be just trying to love and trying to understand why people are acting up, why people are not happy, and a lot of it is because they're missing out on the love of God, and they're not focused on God. They're focused too much on material. And the people that run this world and run this material realm, do we see them out there being happy? If they're being happy and so happy, why aren't they sharing the wealth? Like, everyone should be happy, you know? Why are they hoarding it for themselves and keeping the power for themselves? Does that seem to be right or divine? Now, I don't know about that, but I think sharing the wealth as much as you can makes you feel good, and it makes, feelings of stuff that, a pile of gold or the biggest house or whatever, to me is secondary and not even, I mean, I'd rather have people want to be around me because of me, not because of what I have and like material. And that's the thing, trying to be focused on and more spirit minded, and the spirit reality of God, and not so much material, the physical part. And that's where God lives, is in the heart of hearts. And so on the three superpositions, spirit, body, and mind, your spirit can testify at Father fragment and actually build your soul up to the point to where you be reborn and just keep evolving your spirit and your knowledge and your wisdom. And it's to me a reality that I concentrate on now all the time as much as I can. And it can be hard because the world's still hard, but if each one of us keep concentrating more on God and not ourselves, and our kids, they will start to get it quicker than we will, because they already hopefully being raised in a loving and nurturing environment, and not just an environment where, like, here, do this so I can go do what I want, here, don't quit crying at me or complaining at me. We need to focus more on our kids, and by the time they get to teenagers, they'll probably be surprising us with intelligence and their creative abilities, where we're like, yeah, let's do that, that sounds like fun, and whatnot, instead of everyone stuck in their own little world bubble on their phone or screen or whatever. And this is kind of oxymoron or ironic that using the phone to get to people, but you gotta fight fire with fire sometimes. And I can only go around so many doors, and that's something I want to do here too. And I get God in there, help me out. I'm gonna be going to do it. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm gonna turn this around a little bit and show you what's got. So Universal Father here has many names depending on the understanding of him, and the teaching of him, the revelations of him from his sons being sent down, descending out of perfection and out of Havana, and being co-created by the Universal Father and Eternal Son as Paradise Creator sons, and the Ordership of Michaels or Michaels. And people get confused on Jesus and him being incarnated by this Paradise Creator Son is different than the Eternal Son. The Eternal Son doesn't really leave the central universe or paradise to have you as a person, but he does influence through spirit and the spirit bestow, and sending his the co-created Paradise Sons out with co-created with the Universal Father and the Ordership of these Michaels. As my understanding, which the Bible calls Michael the Archangel or Chief Archangel, which is pretty much close to the Creator Son of the System Sovereign, the Universe, local Universe Sovereign. And he established that by his seventh bestowal in the flesh, by coming down and incarnating Jesus as a baby from probably birth or in utero, and whatnot, whatever you want to believe, or that's not the important part of it. He came in and brought out the reality of God, and revealed the truer nature of God as a loving Father, not so much a dungeon master, you gotta do this or you'll be punished. as far as like the Hebrews or Jews had it at the time, and Jesus' time seemed like more of a dungeon master. You had kill off your best livestock even to appease God. You know, it sounded to me a little backwards. But we had to evolve religion somehow, and that the whole book explains it all and really nice. But the different realities of God, God is the primal reality, and in the spirit world. Why that's blurry? Sorry, guys. But there we go. The source of truth and the mind spheres. God overshadows all throughout the material realms. God is neither man-like nor machine-like. The first Father is universal spirit, eternal truth, infinite reality, and Father personality. The eternal God is infinitely more reality idealized or the universe personalized. So he's more than we can realize and the more we can think about. He's more than what we'll ever even pop up in our heads. We'll no matter how many ideas we get about God, there'll be more. He'll be more than that, infinitely more. He is not simply the supreme desire of man or the mortal quest objectified. Neither is God merely a concept, the power potential of righteousness. He is not a synonym for nature, neither is he natural law personified. God is transcendent reality, not merely man's traditional concept of supreme values. God is not a psychological focalization of spiritual meanings, neither is he the noblest work of man. He is a saving person and a loving Father to all who enjoy spiritual peace on earth and who crave to experience personality, survival, and death. So the actuality of the existence of God is through our testimonies. And this says, actuality of the existence of God is demonstrated in human experience by the indwelling of the divine presence, the spirit monitor sent from paradise to live in the mortal mind of man and there to assist in growing the mortal soul for eternal survival. The presence of this divine adjuster in the human mind is disclosed by three experiential phenomena. And so you got three of them there. This is how the proof of God is through our testimonies and the intellectual capacity of knowing God, God consciousness, the spiritual defined God, God seeking, which I call God loving too, and the personal craving to be like God, that's God loving too, the wholehearted desire to do the Father's will. So if you want to be like God, which is, God is love, then you want to,